But where'd you come from? How'd you find us?
Yeah, so I was working a corporate rental job before this. And I just started looking on, I think it was LinkedIn, for different like high level sales jobs. And I was just trying to find something. I knew I didn't want to stay in like management, and I didn't really like the corporate stuff because I'm like in a brand new suit and I'm scrubbing vehicles all day. It was just kind of like a weird setup to me.
I know
And
where you were.
yeah, and like the pay is not very good. Um, Considering you like have to have a degree and they go after ex athletes and all this other stuff, right? And so I was like, well, I'm obviously not very good at managing like certain kinds of people, and that would be like the lazy kind. So I used to butt heads a lot with the guy that was above me and underneath me that I was helping. And so I was like, whatever, I'm just going to get some kind of a sales job where I'll be in charge of myself. I can make as much money as I want. No one's going to bother me, and I'll just be good. Right. And so I kind of found FFL in January of 2018. And I was just started watching all these different videos that Sean did and the producer testimonials and all this stuff. And everyone was kept talking about 10K week and 400 grand a year. And I was like, well, obviously that stuff's not true, but even if it's like half true or like a quarter true, like I'll still be making 100 grand if I do 25% of what they're doing. So I was like, I'm sure it's going to work eventually. And then I got a promotion. So I stayed at my other job. And then finally it just kind of imploded. And April of 2019, I actually got licensed and started dialing April 1st. So just barely over 2 years ago, exactly.
Okay. So you said a couple of things that I think that people might have missed or might have glossed over. So first of all, the place that he came from, we don't talk about names, but I think you all know what that industry is. So obviously it's a great place to recruit, and he just gave you all of the talking points that you need to recruit from that industry. So if you're looking to build, and we'll get into that later, definitely tap into that industry for all the reasons that he just said, and play it back if you missed it. That competitive edge, you said they go after former athletes. So obviously you were a former athlete. I recently learned, and also come from a very accomplished and competitive family. How did that translate, or how did you translate that mindset and those things to what you're doing now, and how has it helped?
Yeah, I think that was it's been like pivotal to my, kind of journey through FFL, right? Coming from any kind of competitive background, and that can literally be in anything. Like you can be a musician that has to do stuff like that for like high school or in college, or there's tons of different competitive industries that you can like kind of utilize and just transition that skill set here. And that's just the overcoming, getting your butt kicked and getting better, right? So I competed at a medium level at an NAIA school, dude. So it wasn't like this big thing or whatever. But I still always wanted to be competitive. And so transitioning over to here, it was like being able to find a new sport that you actually got paid for, right? Because now all of a sudden, when you get good at it, you guys are talking about 400 grand in a year. I was like, well, this is great, right? And I knew I was going to be bad at first, certainly not as bad as I was. I didn't know it was going to be that horrible. But I knew that it was going to be a matter of repetitions and getting better, because it's not like I've ever in my whole life where I started something and then I was really good at it right away, right? It takes like reps and years and months, or whatever the situation is. But assuming that you're going to start something and overnight be some like unbelievable, whether it's an athlete or this job, like I knew right away that I was going to struggle. Because it was brand new to me and I'd never started something and just been good at it inherently. So I kind of just carried that with me and was like, well, if I just put my head down and work a lot, there's no way it's not going to work itself out mathematically, at least according to what everybody's saying on the trainings. And so I just kind of used that, past experience, being told no and other stuff, and, whatever it is, getting cut from teams. I just kind of applied that to here, where I was like, okay, well, I'm really bad and I just need to get more reps under my belt to get better. Because it's literally that simple. It's just a couple of word tracks that you need to learn as a new agent, so I kind of just used all of my background type stuff. And, I do kind of come from where I've had some family members compete at like Olympic trial level and be world ranked athletes and stuff, and I was never anywhere close to that stuff. They kind of hoarded all those high level genes, but I got the medium ones. So I kind of just used all that stuff and applied it to here. And it's literally just a work factor. And you hear Sean say nonstop, all you have to do is go to work. You just have to go to work and anybody can do it. And I'm like, so now I don't have to be smart. I don't have to be tall, fast, strong. I don't have to do any of that stuff. All I have to do is show up and work, and that I'm going to by default make money eventually, you know? And so I took that very literally, and I just applied my entire self to this whole job from day one.
Got it. So aside from the reps, obviously, and your work ethic, what are some of the things? First of all, you just glossed over how bad it was. Talk to us about specifically what was bad. Was it terrible on the phones, getting hung up on, terrible in the house? And then what were some of the things specifically, aside from just repetition and consistency, that were key in helping you kind of turn the page?
Man, so I would say two to three, like really, really major things. So step one, so I'm a really fast talker. It's just, I've always been like that. You know, my brain can fit like a very small amount of info in it at once, and I forget stuff really easy. So I really do have to read over stuff a few times or listen to a training 20 times before to like actually sink in. So in order to give myself a little bit more time and not rush through my appointments, I got on the phone with Mark Mead, and he changed my whole schedule, because I was booking 10 to 12 appointments in a day, and I would schedule them between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m., but I would have 12 scheduled. So all of a sudden I start running behind, and I start glossing through my appointments, right? Where I'm just rushing through and putting prices. They say no, of course, because I have no idea why I'm even in there. And then I go to my next one that I'm behind for. So I rush through that one to try to get to my next one on time that's not even home. And so I did this thing for 10 weeks where I was just running a horrible schedule. I had no idea what I was doing. I was rushing in all the houses, not asking any good questions, not picking up any checks. I would be like 1, 2, or 3 checks that I would pick up out of 44 appointments every week for 10 weeks, you know? So I'm just getting hit in the face every single day, and I'm not making any adjustments, you know? So I figured out with my conversation with Mark, it turns out that I just need a little more time in my appointments. So now it's every hour, 15, hour and a half, I'll book an appointment. So now I can have an 8, 9:15, 10:30, 11:45, and I can do that throughout the day. And I can still schedule 9 to 11 appointments in a day and just finish up by 8:30 or 9:30 at night. You know, so having that little bit of a timepiece and causing me not to rush or be overwhelmingly worried about being late for stuff, because I hate being late for things, you know? So that was like a big adjustment with this job, is like, hey, it's okay to be late. You already told them you're going to be late. So that was a big one, my schedule. And then the other massive game changer for me that goes along with the scheduling stuff is I started setting a 10-minute timer in every appointment I went to. And I would not let myself go through any of the suitability stuff with the client until they spent 10 minutes talking to me about why they filled it out, who it was for, and what's going to happen without it. And I would just get the shovel out and start going at every angle I could. Is the daughter married? Does she have kids? Does she have a family? What's she do for work? How far away does she live from here? Does she have her own bills? Does she have 30 grand overnight she could come up with for your final expenses? Talk to me about that. And you just let them tell you everything, right? So now all of a sudden I have a clip full of ammo, and I can start proceeding through the appointment because I'm holding all the chips, right? So, you know, now we're going to get to a point where the only possible answer that they could give me at the end of the appointment is yes, because of how I set it up in the beginning. So those are two big things that I fixed.
So you went straight to the top. Who told you to suggested that you reach out to Mark, or is that something that you just did independently? Because I know a
No,
lot of people are afraid to reach out, period, let alone to somebody who's Mark Mead, even though he's just a normal person, which you found.
well, yeah, and you want to talk about intimidating, right? So I had been listening to Mark's, all your guys' like team training, right? The tri-state stuff for, you know, almost over 2 months by now, you know, so I had heard all these stories of Mark's background and, you know, coming from being in debt to coming here and fixing it kind of stuff. And then I heard a training where he was talking about, he was cycling out of the field and he did 465 that year. And I'm like, I can't pick up more than $1,500 in a week. And this guy's talking about, he gets out of the field and does 465. And so I talked to Zach, and Zach was like, honestly, I'm kind of at a dead end on what I can do with you, because you're literally terrible and you're still working a lot. You're just awful. So I need to find somebody else that can help you with something, because I don't know what you're missing. And so, because Zach can teach me how to close every appointment, but if I rush through them, it doesn't matter. So he pointed me to Mark, and he's the one that got me in touch with Mark about having a quick 30-minute phone call. And then I just got absolutely shredded for about 30 minutes when I was explaining to Mark how I was running.
Yeah. Okay. Now that's, I mean, that's admirable, because it takes a lot to just sit there and take it and not say, well, but, or I did that, because a lot of times you get on the phone with somebody just started and they're like, yeah, that's what I said. Or I did that. I did that too. But there's no way you did that or we wouldn't be having this conversation.
Yeah, that, you know, I got pretty good prep up front for, hey, anytime you're calling to ask somebody for help, maybe don't tell them all the great things that you're doing and just ask them what you can actually fix, you know?
Yeah.
So that was some advice that I was blessed to get before I got on the phone with them.